Titans, okay? That's a draft music. Happy mock draft season to all those who celebrate. I'm one of them. It's Mel Kiper Jr.'s first mock on the lead up to April's NFL draft. You can see Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders going 1, 2, 3 to start things off. His entire article now available on ESPN.com. Mel will be joined by Field Yates, Matt Miller, Jordan Reed, and Adam Schefter for a full hour at 5 Eastern over on ESPN2. That, of course, gets you ready for everything and tells you a little bit more in depth about Mel's mock. All right, let's get to some top stories with Adam Schefter. And Shefty, the Titans do hold that #1 overall pick. Will they be open to fielding offers from other teams between now and April's draft?
Well, Laura, the interesting part here today is that the Titans introduced their new general manager, Mike Borgonzi. And during the press conference, Chad Brinker, the Titans president, said that they want to get a generational talent at #1. Most draft experts believe the generational talents are Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, not the quarterbacks. So we'll see what Tennessee decides to do. Meanwhile, the Jacksonville Jaguars general manager, Trent Baalke, is out as the Jaguars GM. He essentially is no longer there as they look for a new head coach. Earlier in the day, Liam Cohn, who was one of their targets, the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, pulled out and decided to stay in Tampa on a new contract. And the New York Jets have a new head coach in Aaron Glenn. They have reached agreement with him on a new 5-year contract, which is the same amount of time given to the other head coaches. Aaron Glenn is contractually tied to the Jets now through the 2029 season. He returns to the organization that drafted him in the first round, that gave him his start in scouting. Essentially, he's done a lot of work in time, and he's got the full support of the people that he knew in Detroit, the people that knew him in New York. A lot of people really happy that Aaron Glenn finally has gotten his long overdue opportunity to become a head coach, and he does it with the team that he started his NFL career with.
Hoping for Aaron Glenn and Jets fans that he can be the one who turns things around there. All right, more news, Adam. What's going on in Cincinnati?
The Bengals are expected to hire Notre Dame defensive coordinator Al Golden as their new defensive coordinator, according to ESPN's Pete Thamel, who just posted the news a short time ago. So Al Golden goes from coaching in the national championship game to returning to the Bengals staff. He still has an apartment in the Cincinnati area. I believe his family is still in the Cincinnati area, and this has been a match waiting to happen. The Bengals gone through a number of defensive coordinator interviews, but all along people felt like Al Golden was in the pole position. He's interviewing for the job today. He is expected to get that job. And again, he is one of a number of hires that have been made today. Josh McDaniels returns to New England as their offensive coordinator. The Patriots hire Terrell Williams, the Lions defensive line coach, is their defensive coordinator. And the Lions now have lost 3 assistant coaches: Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, and Terrell Williams.
Great stuff from Adam, of course, breaking that news throughout the day, as always. Let's talk about Al Golden quickly. We've talked about his defensive mind, his genius at times for Notre Dame and in his other coaching stops. How does that look to you potentially in Cincinnati, Dan?
I think Cincinnati's going to fit him, more than he going in and fitting Cincinnati. He's brilliant defensively. I think he's a genius. I think the biggest thing is their defensive line will immediately get better outside of Trey Hendrickson. That's something that was the calling card always with him, certainly at Notre Dame, was his defensive lines were so good and so active. All
right, you just heard Adam mentioning it. The Lions now officially out with both of their coordinators. Ben Johnson headed to Chicago to be their next head coach. He was officially introduced this afternoon.
Everyone wants to talk about the quarterback, and Caleb, I'm excited to work with you, but it's going to take more than just you. And there are a lot of pieces already in place. I wanted to stay in this division. I know this is the toughest division of football right now. There's 3 teams that made the playoffs this year. Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Connell. You're talking about 2 guys that are up for Coach of the Year awards as the season ends here. And to be quite frank with you, I kind of enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year.
That's got to be his boy, man. Come on.
Yeah, I don't think he talks, he throws that shade unless they're good friends. All right, Bears reporter Courtney Cronin in the room today for the press conference. What did Caleb Williams have to say about his new coach and the plan moving forward, Courtney?
Yeah, Laura, 2 days before Caleb Williams showed up at Ben Johnson's introductory press conference at Hallis Hall, he was driving on the highway in Florida when Bears team leaders gave him a call, said, Ben Johnson's your next head coach. And he let out this scream in excitement because it provided clarity for Williams in the offseason. And Johnson said that Williams was a huge reason why he decided to take this job and that he's going to calibrate an offense around the QB. But that doesn't mean they're going to just drop the Detroit playbook here in Chicago and call it a day and build it from there. No, they're ripping this thing down to the studs to build it around the former #1 overall pick. And that approach reminds Williams of what he had with Lincoln Riley at USC. Obviously, Riley had coached great quarterbacks in college football like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, but he didn't coach Caleb Williams the exact same way that he did those two. And that's a big selling point. Jared Goff is not Caleb Williams. Williams knows that, and Ben Johnson knows that. And above all else, you could really tell just how much the symbiotic relationship between those two is already starting to take place. Williams said he's had conversations with Johnson about being challenged, about honing his skill set. But if there is something that Johnson wants to put in the playbook that does not fit Caleb Williams' skill set or just isn't something he jives with, it will not be in there going forward.
Thanks so much to Courtney for the latest there. There's so much to get into. J-Mac, what's going to be the most important thing for Johnson a couple weeks in the facility?
Yeah, I think we're all going to talk about the impact it's going to have on Caleb Williams. But to me, it starts with the vision and the culture that he's setting forward for that locker room. I'm a defensive guy, so yes, there's a quarterback aspect of it that I care about because you want to see that side of the ball flourish. But on the other side, I care about my career too. What are we doing as a football team to get better? And the second part to me is proving yourself as a coach. You're walking into a locker room of a team that lost games down the stretch, a Hail Mary, last play of the game, of mismanagement of the clock to the Detroit Lions. I want to know when we walk into this locker room and we're going over our 2-minute drill or 4-minute drill, whatever situation is in the game, you guys have a direct plan and it's going to help us win football games. If not, I don't care just about us having a #1 ranked offense if we're not winning the game on Sunday. So I think that's the most important part. And then, yes, you will get into all of the things with Caleb Williams and him having an understanding and trusting the offense and all of those things. But first and foremost is building up that locker room.
You got to be yourself, too. I mean, players know. I'll never forget being with Jared Goff when Sean McVay took over in Jared's second year, their first year together. I'm not joking. 5 minutes into the first team meeting of the season, I leaned over to Jared Goff and said, you guys are going to be just fine with this dude. I don't know. He was so impressive when it came to the way he spoke. You know, so how does Ben Johnson take Caleb Williams to the next level? Caleb's words, according to Courtney, was, I want to hone my skills. And to your point, J-Mac, like everybody in the locker room matters. It's not just getting Caleb to play well. It's getting everybody to play well. So then Caleb play well. That play action game is going to be such a big deal. And it's little steps that become like the big dividends. Because if you watch Caleb last year, there's moments when he would operate a play action pass well and see it the right way and time it the right way. You're like, all right, cool. But then there are moments you're like, oh, you're hitched late there, or you don't maybe make the right type of throw there. This is that play action, right? The big in route is a huge part of this offense. I would continue to think it's the same case. One hitch at the top. Hawk, you know this. One hitch. That ball's got to be into that big dig right now. Maybe you float it over that linebacker with touch. If he's too deep, you take the check down to the back. The second thing is this. If you're going to throw that in, it's not on 3 hitches in this offense. And the last part, Hawk, you cannot, as a receiver, drift upfield. You got to come flat. This is what Amon-Ra St. Brown does so well, because you drifting allows that undercut. So that's when I say it's not the perfect match right now, it's because Caleb doesn't often play on time. Can he? 100%. That's going to be the challenge to Ben Johnson, to get him to do that, but also those receivers being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there.
It's as simple as that, right? When you look at the Ben Johnson offense and what he was able to do with the Detroit Lions, a big part of that was defining what the roles for the receivers are. It's not just we have a bunch of good guys, let's throw them out there, which at times is what it felt like with the Chicago Bears.
That's why their spacing stunk.
Spacing stunk. You look at the concepts, you're like, that couldn't be how they drew it up. That's not it. So when you look at it now and you say, okay, well, who is your Amon-Ra St. Brown? I think you have one in DJ, right? DJ Moore. The question I have is a Dunze. Like, how do you get him to the next level? I went back and looked at all the passes he had with 20-plus air yards, and he needs development. How do you turn him into the Jameson Williams, where he's a true threat down the field, because it's what's going to right-size the receiving core and open up things in every space of the field, which gives Caleb Williams the confidence to throw that on one hitch because guys will be where they need to be.
I wonder if Odunze plays kind of like the Tim Patrick role. He's a much more talented player because of his frame.
They need to squeeze all the juice out of that because they certainly invested in both of those guys early in last year's draft. All right, still to come. It's Commanders.
Tại với kênh YouTube của mình, video ngày hôm nay mình lại làm những cái video tô mổ để gửi tặng tất cả các bạn đây. Đây là những đồ vật, con vật của mình chuẩn bị tô mổ để gửi tặng tất cả các bạn. Đấy. Những sản phẩm của mình rất chi là nhiều, rồi. Và không thể thiếu được hộp xăm màu của mình này các bạn ơi. Hộp xăm màu giúp mình tạo ra những sản phẩm tuyệt đẹp. Và bây giờ các bạn cùng theo dõi mình tô mổ nha.
Bây giờ xin tiếp tục câu hỏi là chào bạn ơi.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Video ngày hôm nay mình lại làm những cái video tô mỏ để gửi tặng tất cả các bạn đây. Đây là những đồ vật, con vật của mình chuẩn bị tô mỏ để gửi tặng tất cả các bạn. Đấy. Những sản phẩm của mình rất chi là nhiều, đây. Và không thể thiếu được hộp xăm màu của mình này các bạn ơi. Hộp xăm màu giúp mình tạo ra những sản phẩm tuyệt đẹp. Và bây giờ các bạn cùng theo dõi mình tô mỏ nha.
Bây chi tiết tô mỏ các bạn.